And we're live.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the City of Belleville's Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. It's our first meeting in the new season, second day of spring. Thank you for coming today, and what a beautiful day we have ahead of us, and hopefully a very productive meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm Councillor Sean Kelly with the City of Belleville, and we'll check on attendance. Anything to report? Sheila?
Yes, Chair, we're absent with Summer and Deputy Chief Chris Berry today.
Okay, and I think regards were sent from Rhonda Schmidt as well.
No, Rhonda's joining us now, so we have quorum, Chair, to proceed.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Rhonda. Before, we're going to make some alterations to the agenda today, but before we do that, we want to go to Councillor Garnet Thompson's going to read a statement. It was in March of 2014 that this committee was formed. So today, or this month, we celebrate its 8th year. So we'll go to Councillor Garnet Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. And I have a start of a statement and a history of the Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Committee has its roots in efforts of individuals and organizations committed to the equality and inclusion of all individuals in our community. In 2014, Reverend Dr. Aruna Alexander, founding president of the United Nations Association Quinte branch, brought the notion of forming such a city council committee to former Mayor Neil Ellis, suggesting at the time that the city consider joining the coalition of municipalities against racism and discrimination. Through those collaboration efforts, the current committee was formed, has grown, evolved to expand its mandate. The fact that this committee was born when I, an immigrant woman, work in collaboration, partnership with a Canadian-born mayor and his council is a perfect model of inclusion. We have diversity and inclusivity built in the very foundation of this committee. Original members in 2014, Garnet Thompson, Chair, City Council Belleville, Reverend Dr. Aruna Alexander, United Nations Association of Canada, Quinte branch, Edgerton Boyce, former councillor for the City of Belleville, Michael Callahan, Belleville Police Service, Orlando Farrell, United Immigrants Association, Veronica Montgomery, Hastings Prince Edward Public Health, Karen Post, Economic and Strategic Initiatives, City of Belleville, and Michael Whitaker, volunteer member of the public. Thank you very much, Chair. It was a pleasure to read this. Always been honored with this committee. It's a wonderful committee and you're doing wonderful work. And I commend the new members since the committee was formed for continuing the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garnet Thompson. Appreciate the kind words as well. We'll go to number 3, disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Anybody to declare anything? I'm seeing no hands. We'll go on to item number 4, approval of the minutes from February the 8th, 2022. You had a chance to read them. Can we get a mover? Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? Approved. Thank you.
Chair, just one note on the minutes. There was an addition of Veronica Montgomery listed in the February minutes, but Veronica was not in attendance, and I thank Victoria Law for being my quality control analyst and catching me on those details. So thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria. We were going to hear from our guest speakers today, but many have heard that Stacy has another event to go to in the next 20 minutes. So we're going to go right down to new business 6.2. We're just going to alter it a bit and get an update on Pride Week. Stacy, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sean. Hi, everybody, and thank you for today's opportunity. So Pride Week is undergo. June the 4th to June the 11th. On June the 4th, we're going to have interfaith service for all peoples of all denominations. I will let you know, it will be on the Bay of Quinte Pride website to the location of that. Tuesday night will be a pizza night at Boston Pizza, hosted by our youth group, Say Out Loud. And then on Wednesday night will be bowling night at the Quinte Bowling Lanes, hosted by our Transforum group. And then Saturday is going to be the parade, leaving from Empire Square at noon, going to Zwick's Park. We will have dignitaries. Our mayor is going to do a little speech for us. And then we will have some music and entertainment and some vendor tables there. We're going to wrap up a bit early, around 3:30 this year. We're not going over the top. Anybody who wants to participate in the parade is welcome to join us. It's free of charge this year, as are the vendor booths at the park. No charge for our registrants who want to sell their wares and be part of that. What we do ask is a donation to the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee. That's it for now. There's much more coming. Please watch our website or the Facebook page for upcoming events.
Thank you, Stacy. Anybody have any questions? I have a question for you, Stacy. A few weeks ago, you reached out to me short on volunteers. Where are you at right now?
We have 12 on the committee, but we need more volunteers to run the parade and do some of the work at the park as well. So if anybody is interested in helping out, that would be wonderful.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. We look forward to that Pride Week, June 4th to the 11th. Thank you. Deputations today. We have two individuals joining us via Zoom from their home. Just a little run up for them. I had a chance to speak with them last week. I was away on a working assignment, and I know that they organized this big event in the city of Belleville on March the 5th, and then they had a special night of poetry. They've been working closely with the city of Belleville, acknowledging what's going on in Ukraine and all the different work that we can do locally here. So I reached out to Corinne and Myra last week to see if they'd be guest speakers today. Amazing story of love, how these two met. One from Ukraine, the other from New Jersey. Let's welcome Corinne and Myra to our meeting. Welcome, ladies, and you're here to tell your story and how much love that the city of Belleville and area have given you over the last 3 weeks with some of the different projects you're involved. Welcome, ladies. You two can figure out who's going to go first.
Thank you, Sean. I know you suggested we join from separate screens here. Maybe it would have been better to join together so we could, yeah, push each other off. Mira, do you want to start?
Sure. I don't know actually what to start with. Should I start with what we did? Should I start with what we are? Like, should I start with where we stand right now?
I have a thought how to start if you want.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll let you take the more, the now part of what we're doing for Ukraine, but just Stacy's update there about the Pride Parade just got me remembering and thinking about my earliest memory of when we moved to Belleville. So we moved from the GTA, I guess 4 years ago. Is it right, Mira? Yeah. And my very first memory it was in June when we arrived, and we were attending a culminating parent meeting for the parent group for the class that our son Gordy was going to be starting with the following year, the adventure class there at Queen Victoria. And so we attended the parent meeting, a meeting much like this. It was called to order, and one of the things on the agenda was that the class was going to be marching in the Pride Parade, and I almost burst into tears. I was so surprised and happy. I know that sounds silly, but coming from Toronto even, we had actually a really unpleasant experience at Gordy's previous school in Toronto in terms of how they approached us as a family and, kind of not very accepting or understanding of the simple fact of us being a same-sex couple was just like kind of too hard for them to grapple with. They didn't know how to put me in the computer as like a second mom. Like I was like, really? This is, okay. So I just remember showing up to that parent meeting, not knowing what to expect. And somebody else named Stacy actually was the one who had the agenda item, surprisingly, to say, hey, we're going to have a float in the parade and march there and everybody's welcome to come. And I was just like, had this sigh of relief, like, okay, we're good here. This is going to be good. So it's just interesting crossover there, Stacey, that you had that same agenda item here at this meeting today. And it's been wonderful in Belleville ever since. But Mira, I'll let you take it for what we're up to these days.
So yeah, we organized so far already since the war started in Ukraine 4 weeks ago. I can't believe it's been like that long. We organized 3 events here in Belleville to bring some awareness and to also help people help, so to somehow bring people together, because as Corinne mentioned, since we moved, it's been just like Belleville has been opening up to us little by little as a wonderful place to be. And since the war started, then a lot of people started reaching out who knew me as a Ukrainian and just wanted to do something, not knowing what to do, as well as we didn't know what to do at all about this. Like, this is not a normal situation, you wouldn't know what to do in. So we had this drive for donations, and we collected $9,000, and then $3,000 also trickled in later. And then we also had the event as a poetry reading to tell a little bit more about Ukraine and its history, and why this conflict, why this aggression, it's not a new thing, to explain a little bit about that it's kind of all, I guess, can be explained, not really expected, but explained historically. And then we also had just a table at a hockey game last weekend, which Belleville senators were very happy, very also open, and right away gave us space, and provided us with a table so that we can also ask for support from and bring awareness to all Belleville senator fans. So, and as of that was all great and amazing. And Corinne also right now came up with this idea of the program that can be, because it's not stopping, unfortunately. Every day I'm waking up and I'm like, what's the news? Did something drastic happen? Did some change happen? Did they close the sky? Did the war stop? Was there a break? Was there a change? Did they stop destroying cities? Any of that? And nothing, unfortunately, has happened out of that nature yet. So every morning it's the same. And I'm right now at the point where I'm like, okay, the news cycles have moved on. The people are moving on. They cannot watch those horrible images anymore. They get disassociated with the reality of it, and that's all normal for for us as human beings, for the nature, right? It's all normal to happen. But I'm at the point where I'm like, that cannot become a norm. A war like that, just a destruction of the whole country, displacement of the whole nation, total, genocide, cannot go on. It's not a norm. It just shouldn't be accepted and just moved on from. So I'm at the point where we want to have this something ongoing as a program, maybe from a neighborhood to a neighborhood, because I know several different neighborhoods who organize territory defense forces in Ukraine right now, in Kiev, in Zhytomyr, which is active right now. They have the action, the war action actually happening right now in Energodar, which is one of the atomic stations, which is also they're actively engaged right now. They were bombed just yesterday. Also in Cherkasy, which is my native city, and my mom is still there. And thankfully they were just they just had several missiles around the city. The city is intact for now. So they have a lot of internal refugees, and they are working a lot with them. So one of the programs that we do is this support your neighborhood thing that we're trying to do for people to keep remembering and maybe have a little bit of a more personal connection, from a person, to see and understand that it's not just what's been reported, I think it's much deeper and much more devastating in terms of, let's say I have a friend who is just a teacher, and when they started their little town, it's a tiny town really, and when they getting hit by missiles, one missile pretty much blew out the windows of half of their town right away, and so she picked up two of her friends with their children. Their fathers are being at war right now, so she picked up two of those women and she just moved them just next city over, kind of thing, a little bit further away at least. And those are also the people what nobody reports to as like displaced or wounded or anything, but their lives are very disrupted right now, right? They lost their homes. They don't have any possessions with them, right? They are moved from a place to a place where they have to find a shelter or rent something for the money that they don't have, because there is no jobs, obviously, in the country, which is under war. So little things like that, if we can, like, I think if people can relate to them a little bit more, remember, maybe we can do a little bit more for them right now. And also, hopefully, people will be able to enter Canada soon. And we had this like wonderful meeting yesterday when we talked about what are the options right now for refugees like outside of the country who are starting to come. Then they will need some help and settling and everything too. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with current events.
Yeah, thank you, Mira. And so the Adopt a Neighborhood initiative that we actually launched this weekend, and if there's a place to share links with you all, I can certainly share those URLs, but basically launched to clarify the specifics. It's set up as a weekly ongoing level of support. So instead of just, continuing to do one-off events where we have no idea, how many people might show up or how, what we might get, to be able to help folks who are essentially doing, sort of what we did on the 5th in Belleville, where everybody just came together. It was very spontaneous, but it became very organized, just organically through what had to happen. And we saw our neighbors doing that. People just started showing up, sticking around, making categories, making signs, and it just all came together. Suddenly there were 24 volunteers just sort of, organizing. And that's exactly what they're doing, neighborhood by neighborhood, essentially in Ukraine right now. They're regular people, just like us, neighbors, getting together. They're making shifts, they're assigning jobs. Some people are cooking, some people are buying medicine, some people are setting up blockades, or sandbags around important monuments so they hopefully don't get damaged. There's all kinds of things that have to be done. And so they're organizing, and they're assigning those jobs and those roles, and they're making budgets. It's, we're coming up on the 1 month mark here in 2 days, and they really do have to kind of plan for the long haul. How many people can we feed? How much fuel can we purchase each week? What can we accomplish? So our hope is to provide a program that can be a little bit more stable and say, okay, our little neighborhood here in Belleville is going to adopt, Mira's, hometown of Cherkasy, for example. And if every household in Belleville chips in $2 a week, even, we can provide a really meaningful amount of ongoing support and say, okay, Cherkasy, you can count on X dollars a week from us, and go ahead and make your budget. You can know what you can count on. And that's the goal of this program at this point, so that they can really make decisions and understand, how they need to organize themselves and their neighborhoods and their lives right now.
Any questions so far for our guest speakers today? Any questions? I have one for you. How's the connection with mom and your mother-in-law? How often do you speak? And just maybe update us on your mom's connection, Mira.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm in touch with my mom at least every 12 hours, sometimes more often, depending what I hear from other people, because my mom is a trooper and she's been a mother. So she doesn't want to give me the real thing. She wants to give me the good version. I'm fine. Everything's great. Don't worry about me type of thing. And meanwhile, my friends, who like almost all of my friends, unfortunately, already left that city where my mom is at right now, because they chose, like, the men stayed, and they are there to defend the city if there is more action happening there. But the women and kids, like pretty much all of my friends at this point, are out somewhere either further west in Ukraine or across the border in Poland. Because they don't feel safe with their children being there. But the truth of it as of now is that my mom really cannot travel. At this point, it's not safe to travel a lot, because I had friends who were traveling, also trying to bring their families out, and they had their cars shot at, And I have this like acquaintances of mine who had like they had 4 people in the car. They made 3 attempts on leaving the city that was under siege at the time, and they were shot at all 3 times. They had to regroup. They like left their car behind. Then they had to regroup with other people to be in their car. So it ended up 3 of them being shot, and 2 of them being like in the intensive care unit for over 2 days. Like finally, the mom and the daughter they're recovering, but they had like the lungs shot through, the hips like shot through, like all the horrible things happen. So like it's really not safe to travel. Especially my mom is not very young right now. Her heart is not so strong. My friend's mother unfortunately died in that city because of the heart attack when they were bombing nearby, so like all those things don't add up to like the calm of my heart, right? Knowing all those things and seeing all those things. But she's there right now, and they are getting a little bit, how do you say it? They are not so sensitive anymore to what's even happening around them. They're trying to do things even like under sirens, and that's like, that's my mom's like stage right now. And she's just like, yeah, I went to the refugee center right now, and then I had this list from the defense unit. They need a lot of medicine, so like I already made connections with the local drugstores, so they call me if they have something that I need, so I had to run there. I'm like, oh, so it was a quiet day, right? And she's like, no, they were sirens, but you have to do what you have to do, right? And like just listening to all that is like they're trying to move on with their life, and do as much as they can, right? That's what it is, but that's also not a norm.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank both of you, and it's nice to see us again. I have one question, but first I want to compliment you. I was fortunate to attend both your events. I go back to the first one behind City Hall, and it was early in the morning, and it was just before you two happened to arrive, and people were dropping stuff off. And the generosity of our city, because both the girls had other things and they're still trying to get there. One person said, "Would you take donations until they come?" And within about, couldn't have been any more than 2 or 3 minutes, people give me $200, $100, $50. I think I had $500 or $600 given to me to these girls, and that's just to go to show the generosity of this city. So I commend you both for your work. I went to the poem reading. It was great to hear the Ukrainians reading poems in Ukraine. I thought that was really, and unfortunately had to leave a little early, but your work you're doing. One question, are you, either one of you is involved in trying to bring Ukrainians into this area, or is that another group that's going to be looking at that?
That's a great question. We actually had a little huddle yesterday with some various folks, Kat included and Aruna included there yesterday, just to try to get on the same page actually with all the different groups that might have a hand in that. And so we're still learning and finding the information of how best we can support that type of effort. And it seems there's a couple of different paths that folks might arrive through, but we definitely hope to continue to be involved and do whatever we can to help get ready for folks, or help welcome them once they're here, or help organize families that might want to, get together to help sponsor or welcome or whatever it may be, or house people. So we're still in the learning research phase of understanding how we can help with that, but we're definitely looking for that information and trying to make those connections.
And Myra, I can't imagine with your family over there. I know I watch it every night or every second night. And the devastation. So my prayers and thoughts are with you and your family, and Karina, anybody you know over there. But it must be extremely devastating for you as a Canadian citizen to watch what's happening over there. I don't want to get too personal, but it's got to be. How do you deal with it yourself?
That's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, I want to add a little bit to your comment about the money. Yeah, we're arriving there at 10 a.m. sharp. There is garden Thompson there with a bunch of money already and telling us people just start giving that to me. And it's not even like the start of the event. That was amazing. And yeah, that was it.
We didn't even bring a jar. We didn't expect people to do that. Somebody went and got us a jar because we were just sticking money in our pockets.
Yeah, that's what they said. I said, I got money. We don't even have a jar for it. So we don't expect money here today. And lo and behold, it was pretty amazing. And people said to me, one of the guys that was there said to me, he's a counselor. He is honest. Give it to him. So I said,
yeah. And actually, just a quick update too. Now, so of course you all know we also gathered 20 pallets full of items that got on their way. But in terms of the cash donations, that definitely was kind of the seed for this. I mean, we've been sending money every day to these various neighborhood groups. But one of the other things that we were able to do with those donations was purchased by a fellow in Kingston that helped us out quite a lot with sourcing some protective gear, and we were able to send that through a slightly more direct channel. So it arrived in Poland and then was carried by hand by basically a friend of my family, and who was able to carry it over. And it's arrived in Cherkasy, right, and is on its way to Kiev next. Some of the vests and things. So yeah, it is successfully arrived and confirmed, and it worked. So that was a very important part of what we were able to fund, thanks to those donations.
Yeah, we ended up splitting it in many ways. Like, yeah, that's what ended up happening, because people, like, unfortunately, they really don't have enough protective gear and protective stuff right now. So like, just from those like 60 vests that we bought, like everybody who saw them were like, oh my God, can I have 2 for my friend, please? Like, and of course, since it took several steps to bring it where it needs to bring, I was telling, yeah, sure, take a couple. And then they found a way to cut out the plates, because you need a special license. It's very difficult to like supply that protective gear too. So like what Ukrainians are doing right now, they're coming up with ways to deal around that. So we send the empty, just like carrier vests for the protective gear. And those are also expensive and kind of hard to source there right now. But what they're doing, they're cutting off the steel from those tanks that are standing around, those tractors, whatever they can, and sometimes they add up to like 12 kilograms to a vest, depending on what kind of steel they can find. But they're cutting the steel and they are putting the steel plates inside, and it's very heavy for some people, right? So it's not everybody that can wear that, but mostly people who are in action right now are men who can carry it. And at least, maybe it's not a perfect protection, but at least it will save your life, right? So I think that was great that we could, like when we were starting it, I was like, oh my God, if we don't get enough money, we're just going to put our money and we're still going to do it. So I'm sourcing it. And we ended up like paying for all that and shipping and everything.
Thank you. We've got a question from Kat.
Thanks, Sean. I just wanted to, first of all, say hello again to Corinne and Myra. I was at the meeting yesterday and I wanted to thank them for the amazing and creative community effort that they've made. And I think that the community is kind of giving a bit of an overwhelming response to this. I feel that that's what's happening, and we're getting a large response at Quinte Immigration Services as well. If you wouldn't mind indulging me for a minute or two, what I wanted to do is I was going to send an informational note to those who were at the meeting yesterday about what's actually happening in terms of how Ukrainians are coming here right now, and what the response could be. So do we have a minute or two for me to talk about that a little?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so, and I will send this around obviously in writing to Corinne and Myra and those that were in the meeting yesterday. But from my understanding of what's happening, this is not really a normal, it's not being carried out like a normal, I don't want to say normal, but the typical refugee response. Because right now my understanding is there are no refugee camps. People from the Ukraine are entering European countries with visitor visas or student or work permits and being welcomed into countries surrounding the Ukraine and in parts of Europe. And Corinne and Myra can correct me on some of that if so. But I my understanding are there are no refugee camps being set up. So there's not a response where Ukrainians are able to apply for convention refugee status. And when they are able to do that, they can then be, if you have convention refugee status and the government has an organized response to that, they can then be sponsored by groups in Canada. But right now, that's actually not possible because the government has not organized any sponsorship type of groups as of yet. I think part of the situation is that it's seen as there's sort of a temporary response happening because this is new and they are waiting to see where this is going to go, unfortunately. But I think that the response from the government right now is to do sort of a temporary response to see what is going to happen next so that they can deal with Ukrainians that are leaving the country immediately, but it's not through a convention refugee status. So what they're doing is they have an emergency temporary visa. So they've authorized this visa called the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel to help Ukrainians and their family members come to Canada as quickly as possible for up to 3 years. And this is on a visitor visa. So they are able to apply for a visitor visa and they can come to Canada as long as, you know, they meet the requirements and are approved for that. If they're already, if a person already has a visitor visa, they can come to Canada through the current visitor visa they have, and they can extend that when they arrive. And if they're already inside Canada, they also have the option to extend their stay for up to 3 years as a visitor worker or student as well. So that's the main response that they're having. So most people that are coming from the Ukraine are coming as visitors at the present time, which kind of, at this time, it doesn't allow for the group sponsorship that we've been talking about a little bit. Another option is permanent immigration. So Ukrainians who have already applied for permanent immigration are still in process for that, or they can apply for permanent immigration anew, but that's a long process. So as of yet, I'm not sure if there are any sort of ways that they're pushing that forward faster, but regular immigration is an option if the person is already going through that. The other thing they're doing is they're waiving fees for the visitor visas, and they're waiving fees for some of the temporary processes as well. And they have special measures for COVID-19. So persons who are Ukrainians don't necessarily need to have vaccinations, depending on the various requirements for that. So as I said, at this time, you can't actually privately sponsor Ukrainian refugees through the sponsorship options that the government has for refugees normally. It's possible that these methods may become available in the future, but as it stands now, there's no actual sponsorship group option. So one of the things that we do at QUIS is when there is a sponsorship group option, we usually try to help support sponsorship groups by helping provide information to the general public with knowledge we have about the local response, with knowledge we have about the actual sponsorship, you know, options, and, you know, here's where you can get paperwork for that and that sort of thing. What we're doing now is we're gathering information, and we're holding a database of things like donation items, housing options, and other agencies that are supporting the efforts as well. So because we're a settlement service and we don't have a refugee assistance program, we're not one of the settlement services that has that. So the Peterborough, our sister agency in Peterborough, and Keys and Kingston, they have refugee assistance programs. So they may be more involved in the future in that large scale response if it turns into a situation where convention refugees are being sponsored. But we can work with people who are already landed here and coming to the community, or you know, we can work with families who are bringing people to the community by providing settlement services for those persons and providing information on how to go through the paperwork processes that they do need. Our role is kind of fluid. It changes depending on what the government issues in terms of what they're able to do. So because we're funded by the government, we move with the steps of what the government is providing, and that's that's how we work at QUIS. And in terms of the QLIP as well, our role is to sort of partner with agencies to facilitate the coordination of efforts that other agencies that are on our partnership want to do in order to make a response to the situation. So that's just sort of a little update that I have of what is kind of happening in terms of how we see the situation right now.
Well, thank you, Kat. Ladies, thank you very much for the conversation this morning. Any final thoughts? If this committee can be of any support or networking to help you with your potentially neighbor to neighbor, I think all of us would step up and be willing to work with you on that. Anything to add, Corinne, Myra?
That would be great. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for even having this conversation. You know, even on the personal level, maybe I can also kind of ask you to be mindful, because I know that maybe now here, like as Kat said, we cannot like do much to help those people right in Ukraine. But even like little things, I think that, let's say, it's just one company that I'm pointing out right now, but there are companies, a bunch of them, that chose not to leave Russia right now with this, like, we have a ban, right, on their products, right now as a country. A lot of countries do that. And unfortunately, not all the companies stand behind that. So even in that, you know, remember that by making some purchasing and supporting some countries, you are supporting maybe buying bullets that will be shot in Ukrainians at this point. So even like those little acts of kindness, not supporting those companies, would be already some action that everybody can take, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Corinne?
Yeah, I would add to that too. Even the things that might start to feel like they don't make a difference, like putting a flag in your window or something like that. And you might think, well, who's going to see it? You know, just Canadians are going to see it. So what does it matter? Just we can share on a personal level that, I mean, at least for now, this is the internet age and everybody in Ukraine is still able to get on the internet for the most part. So they are seeing it. And we're every day when we, like, if we walk the dog or something, every time we see something, we're taking a picture and we're sending it. And it really does make a difference. And people really are seeing it. And like they're telling us, oh, thank you. You're our angels. You're our heroes. Like, you're keeping us going, like that. Just even energetic donation, so to speak, makes a huge difference, because it's dragging on. It's a month. They're exhausted. You know, you can imagine, like, I'm exhausted. I feel like I need a break and nobody's shooting at me. And it could be easy to feel defeated or want to give up right now. And knowing that the majority of the rest of the free world is cheerleading them on makes a difference.
I'm driving around right now taking pictures of actually all those flags in the windows. I want to make a huge like collage and send it to all of my friends there to see, like, look, we're really with you here.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. And we're here for you. I just wanted to get this in too. Corinne is the acting CEO for a company in San Francisco, doing it from the East Hill. Amazing. And Myra is working for a pharmaceutical company in Denver, Colorado.
No, in Sweden.
Oh, sorry, Sweden. In Sweden, doing it from the East Hill. Can you believe that? Amazing, eh? Thank you so much. Now, you're welcome to hang out if you want for the rest of the meeting, but thank you. And you have our contact information. You can reach out to us if you have another event that you want our support, okay?
Thank you all so much. I'm going to hop off because I have work meetings to head to myself, but thank you very much for being here. And for
thank you. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to go right into new business. 6.1 is the Multicultural Festival in July. We'll go to Sheila for an update on that.
Well, thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if the committee as a whole would like to participate in the upcoming Chamber of Commerce Multicultural Festival in July. If so, we really need a commitment from the members to attend and be part of the booth, and to sort of coordinate what would happen or what kind of merchandise we might have. So I think at this point, if someone would like to take that on, it's a big endeavor, and perhaps form a subcommittee just to coordinate the details of it. But we need to do it soon if you're going to participate. We just can't simply show up and organize it. We have to have it done in advance, working with Susan Walsh and the great group over at the chamber. But I'm going to put that back to the committee, and if somebody would like to take that on, we can certainly partner and get you the details. But I'm just looking for a decision today, Chair.
All right, well, what we'll do, if anyone is interested in maybe chairing this subcommittee, you can contact Sheila or myself and we'll get things moving. One thing I did want to mention to this, it says the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion booth. It might be time that this committee, you see them all the time, these little pop-up things that actually say what they are. Could be hypothetically a newspaper, a radio station. It could be a big M&M Meats have them where they actually pop up. I know Hastings Prince Edward Public Health has them. Maybe we could get one made for this committee, and when we go out to events, we have an actual professional presence. But that's something. Sorry, Sheila?
It would be a canopy, Chair, that we could have up with a border on it, because in the past we've used City of Belleville ones, and we do have a couple of those at our disposal, but it could be time for something of our own, and it just says Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion around the banner of the canopy, and it's transportable, so it would be a great start.
Thank you. I'm going to talk to Councillor Thompson, and he'll hopefully hit up the mayor for a donation on that somewhere along the line. Thank you for that, Councillor Thompson. We did get the Pride Week update.
Thanks.
Let's go to Councillor Chris Millette. Chris is going to update us on a couple of things that he's working on. Chris.
All right. Yes. And it's not on the agenda, but we spoke beforehand. Some of you may recall the rainbow crosswalk paint issue from a few meetings back. I've had discussions with staff. The bottom line is that they've sourced according to Kyle Hawkins Scholes, our supervisor for the roadworks area. They've sourced a road. It's basically the same paint quality that they do the lines on the pavement with traffic lines and lanes. So in the past, we've had issues of it was simply a standard paint, and as many noted, the crosswalks wore out quite quickly, both from the elements and traffic. Kyle assures me that they've secured a source for these paints. They're on order, and late spring, early summer, they'll be applied so that to maximum effect, so that they take, if you will. So look for those and look for them to stick around, because as we saw from the last efforts in this regard, it pretty much washed away in short order. So that's good news on that front. We're going to have more permanent LGBTQ rainbow crosswalks and locations similar to what we had before, and there may be more, but those discussions can be had where we can either this committee or interested individuals can reach out through the chair, and he can perhaps speak with Joe Reed or Kyle Hawkins Scholes from the department, and we'll see where those crosswalks can go. Any questions on the crosswalks?
Yeah, I got my hand up.
Oh, there you are, Stacy. I see it. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
That's wonderful. Do you think we're going to have those crosswalks in place for the parade?
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, and I've made note of that earlier, and I'll goose them along and make sure that they're in place for the parade.
Okay. I also presented that to the Bay of Quinte Pride Committee, and they have some recommendations as to what they think would be good locations for the crosswalks. The first one,
Stacy, can I just, before we get sidetracked, can you forward those perhaps to Sheila Alexander, and she can distribute them to myself, Councillor Kelly, and we'll get them to staff for consideration.
Okay, absolutely. I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Millette?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Millette. I know Rhonda was instrumental last year around about the locations, and I had asked Rhonda and Stacy to provide us with some chosen locations that they would prefer. So hopefully that'll add to our mix as well.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, if either or both get the locations through to you, the sooner we get them to staff, the sooner we can get them to consider it. And there may be traffic issues where they can't, but I don't know what they are. But hopefully whatever we pass along will be well received by staff, and we can get them in place.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, I was pleased to hear that. The second item that I had, and I'm going to refer this to the next meeting, and I hate to drag this out because it has been backburnered for a few meetings now, is the statement that we worked on earlier with the statement to go to council regarding the homeless. I've been in discussion with the clerk, and we have to, the mandate of the committee is an advisory role. And this is where it gets bogged down into, this is where the difficult parts of the mandates of the committee, if you will. We want to make the statement in such a way as to not, and how is the discussion? To be critical or attacking or be seen to be attacking any individual or group on council. Regardless, we can make a statement through this committee. We just may need to, I'm not saying water down the statement, but massage some of the language in such a way that it doesn't step outside the mandate of this committee. I know. So I will, I see Victoria and Ruth that it's, we'll get this, we'll look offline. I'm trying to be careful of what I say here because I know what I want to say, but we have to bring this statement, if you will, in a manner that may be a little different from what we've crafted. Okay. And that's, I hate to be cagey, and I'm not being cagey. It's just the manner in which we have to conduct our business for the mandate of this committee. So we'll talk offline in the next day or so, and we'll have a look at the statement, and we'll bring it forward one way or another at the next meeting.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Victoria, did you want to say anything, or Ruth, with Councilman that referenced you to? Did you want to say anything, or Victoria?
Nothing specific at this point, to be honest. But it's been a little while since I've looked at that statement, so I'll have to go back and review it and consider how we can craft it in a way that's in alignment with the terms of reference and mandate for this committee.
All right, thank you, Ruth.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember, what Garnet read today, about the origin of the committee. And if you look back to what the city of Belleville signed on to, what is it now, 7 or 8 years ago, I think it's good to just remember that and remember the commitment that the city made at the time to have a truly inclusive community. So yeah, I just think it's really crucial. And I certainly don't want to degrade anybody or make anybody feel uncomfortable with the statement, but I think it's important for the statement to be heard and for all of us, the council, the mayor, like everybody, the city of Belleville, everybody in the community, to be reminded of that commitment on a daily basis, and think about what that means and how are we being inclusive, or are we being anti-racist, or are we being discriminatory toward any certain group in the city. So yeah, I'm all for us looking at it and coming out with a statement that speaks to that. So thank you for continuing to look into this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ruth. And there was some discussion, I know, at previous meetings about maybe the committee just having a stronger social media presence. That's something that we do have to work with the city, because everything has to be filtered through the media department there, and we can respect that. But we see different issues that do pop up within our city, and I believe that this committee, if we're true to what the statement is and what our mandate is, or what our goals are, that on occasion we should be speaking out with some kind of social media comment. We did talk about that on some other issues, but hopefully the next meeting we'll be working together in the same room, and there won't be any Zoom, and Councillor Millette will have that, and we can go from there. Victoria, you got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. One other thing, slightly unrelated, that I just wanted to mention is acknowledging that yesterday was the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which is something that we're to recognize. And I believe that it is noted on our terms of reference. So making a note that that was the day yesterday, and then maybe thinking forward about how we can be sure to acknowledge it in advance next year, perhaps putting it on the agenda for the January or February meeting, to ensure that there's some kind of statement that comes out from the city of Belleville acknowledging it on the behalf of this committee.
All right, thank you, Victoria. Anybody else on that? Thanks, Councillor Millette, for your input on that and work on that. Appreciate that. 6.2 we've discussed already with Stacy earlier. 6.3 Caribbean Festival, and they're asking me to give an update. Well, we had our first meeting last week. Karen Post and I and Alicia Purchase, we met at City Hall. We've worked with the downtown district, Louisa Sorrentino and her team. They have summer solstice planned for June the 24th. That's a Friday night downtown. Everything will be set up. And our hopeful date for the Caribbean gathering will be on Saturday, June the 25th. We've already done some outreach. We're trying to raise some funds. It'll be from 11 o'clock till 4. There will be music, food, dancing. We're working with some folks to help us with some ideas from the Durham Caravana Fest that they have in that area, Ajax area. And I've been working the phones with the Jamaican Tourism Board, and that's why I contacted Kat yesterday to help us with some other organizations that we might not be familiar with that want to get on board. And I spoke to 2 of my friends with Caribbean roots on the weekend, and boy, are they excited. So we're having a beer and wing night for ideas. They want to get involved. They're so excited. And that's a group of about 75 that were tipped off last week when I contacted them, and they want to get behind this, and they're so grateful that this opportunity is going to happen. Hopefully it's all going to work out June 25th. That's what I have. Anybody else for new business? Anything? Want to say anything? Any comments? Nothing? Any comments about the Caribbean Fest? We need support on that too. Need some muscle. So you want to help out, we'll give you some responsibilities. Councillor,
Chair, will that be held downtown?
Yes, downtown.
Is it the Market Square or just in downtown?
Downtown, the same area where they're going to do the summer solstice is going to be shut down, and we'll be putting a request in for 10,000 from the city as well, and we're working on some grant money too. Councillor Millette.
Sorry.
Councillor Millette, I thought you had your hand up.
Yeah, I do. Sorry. Just a reminder that and it reminded me again today when Councillor Thompson was reading the statement at the beginning. We and most other, well, not most, all other city committees are almost alone now in terms of committees of councils and committees of government bodies in this area, including Hastings County, where we don't begin our meetings in any way, shape, or form with our Indigenous land declaration. Those, many of you recall that Summer and myself worked for quite a bit of time to make sure we got that right. We worked with various bodies to ensure that we had the nomenclature correct, the peoples that we were recognizing correct. We crafted a statement. It went on to city staff, and there it remains bogged in bureaucratic, tied up anyway. The city, the quick answer is the city's new official plan has many arms and tentacles, and unbeknownst to us, one of those was to engage an indigenous consultant. And apparently we've engaged an indigenous consulting firm to look over our official plan in all manner of dealings. And our statement has gone to that group, and it's gone to that group, which is being paid a pretty handsome sum to consider our statement, or come up or completely shelve it and give us what they believe our statement should be. So I'm not happy with that situation. I haven't been for some time. I'm just letting the committee know that when we get out of this meeting, I'm going to be sending a few messages to some of the people at City Hall to find out where that's at, why we are probably the last community in this region to finally adopt this policy, which is only right. I mean, everything from service clubs now to municipal subcommittees read these statements at the beginning of their meetings, and it's only right. We should not be the last in that regard. So one way or another, I'll have a report for our April meeting, and hopefully we can get something moving on that front.
Chair, I have to go.
Councillor Thompson?
No, Chair, I have to go, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Thanks, Councillor Millette, for that. I appreciate that you're following up with the city and finding out where we're at with that.
Councillor Kelly, may I ask Councillor Millette a question?
Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
I think I might have asked this once before, but just wondering, is there a place in Ontario or in Canada where we can find out, well, particularly our self-interest is our area, so what lands were ceded and what lands are unceded, so we know what we're talking about in reality when we do land acknowledgement? Where are we in our area?
Well, and while I rail on about the seeming time wasted effort with that consultants firm, they have the ability to find out, and I'm sure when the report comes with our master plan, it will include historical references to what lands are and are not ceded. There's an excellent report, as a matter of fact, that was not inadvertently, but it was a side benefit of an issue that was on our agenda last meeting for City Council about the designation of a house on West Moira Street from the 1820s. And the preamble to that gave an awful lot of Indigenous history of this portion of Belleville, or Belleville in its very infancy. And an awful lot of that was various indigenous groups. And, you know, there was very little talk of treaty agreements in that, save for a portion of downtown that was originally scheduled for burial grounds along the river, which would be now, I guess, the west side of Front Street, from basically the upper bridge all the way to the mouth of the river. That was originally quote unquote on maps as Indian burial grounds, and there was some negotiation, I believe, and I could be wrong, with the Algonquins to cede that land to the city in exchange for a sum, which was quite small. But those are the kinds of things that are included in those reports. Again, it's likely that will be included in that. So I know there are unceded lands in this area. Hopefully, if the money we're paying this indigenous consultancy firm, you know, and it's a tidy sum, I can tell you, let's hope that they do give us a definitive outline of what lands are in fact ceded and unceded in the area that we call Belleville now.
Thank you, Councillor Millett. Victoria?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly comment on that question because I was kind of one of the leads in developing the land acknowledgement for the health unit. And I think one of the key lessons learned for me, especially with the ceded, unceded piece, because there was a bit of debate around that and we had to go back and look a little bit further into it. It's really, there's no, I think one of the key lesson is that there's no one kind of singular place you can go because different groups are going to have different opinions over what is and is not ceded. And our position was to keep it then a little bit more vague and just saying that, because we have obviously all of Hastings County, so going up to Bancroft and all of Prince Edward County, that there is unceded territory within that, but as the health unit, we don't have, it's not our place, nor is it our responsibility to specifically declare what geographic boundaries are and are not unceded territory. We do know that like the Algonquins of Ontario and the North Hastings area do have specific land claims that are unceded and they have that outlined. But if you go to the Ontario government website, there's going to be different perspectives on that piece. So it is a tricky part to go through. So that's where we leaned into keeping it vague and consulting with our neighboring Indigenous communities to get their perspectives on it.
Thanks, Victoria. Anybody else? Chris, Councillor Millett?
Yeah, and that's the point. Good point, Victoria. And I know that when Summer and myself were looking at various Indigenous land statements, acknowledgements, Loyalist College, for instance, with campuses in North Hastings as well, and in Prince Edward County, that was a challenge for them. The scope for Belleville's statement is much smaller, as you know, geographically, what we're dealing with, and seemingly it should be fairly simple. And that's one of the aggravating factors as to why we haven't been able to come up with it yet when others have. So yeah, hopefully we've got a little more clarity, but as Victoria said, in some areas of the ceded and unceded lands, history is not entirely clear on what parcels and what specifically areas of land were ceded and weren't. I mean, again, I gave that example of the burial grounds because that's, that would be one of the few delineated areas that was in fact ceded, and there was a transaction listed in the history books for that, but it's not all that clear in other areas. So yeah, okay, well, hopefully we'll have something a little more next meeting, but there we have it.
All right, thanks, Councillor. Next, anybody else? Looks like we're good. Next meeting is going to be Tuesday, April 19th, 10 o'clock. We're going to be in person in the community resource room at Belleville Police Service. Everybody knows where that is, and it'll be nice to see everybody. I'd like to call for adjournment. We can get a mover. Councillor Millett, seconded by Kat. All those in favor, good. All right, thank you. Thanks, Sheila.
Thanks, Counselor.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.